Rhino. Burn him up!
Fang and claw matched with nerves of steel.
Hello, history buffs, time travelers, and scholars. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, colorful circus tents and the smell of popcorn drew huge crowds to freak shows. These events featured giants, dwarfs, and people with unique appearances, like Joseph Merrick, the Elephant Man. Managed by showmen like P.T. Barnum, these shows showcased the extraordinary, but also raised questions about the lives of those who performed. Were the laughs they brought joy or something darker? Ella Harper. Ella Harper was born in Hendersonville, Tennessee, just after the Civil War. She had a rare condition that made her legs bend backward, so she preferred to walk on all fours instead of standing up. This made her a unique attraction in the circus, where she was known as the Camel Girl. Showman W.H. Harris saw her talent and offered her a good salary of $200 a week, which is about $5,000 today. While this money helped her live comfortably, her job often humiliated her, especially when she was put on stage with a real camel for people to compare. Sadly, tragic events continued to follow her. Her father died in a house fire in 1890, and her brother Willie passed away about 5 years later. The Siamese twins. The Siamese twins were born in 1811 in what is now Thailand, connected by a small band of flesh at their chests. Known as Chang and Eng, they left their home as teenagers to showcase their unique condition. They quickly fascinated audiences across Europe and America, performing for royalty and the elite. By the 1830s, they became so famous that the term Siamese twins was used for all conjoined twins afterward. Their lives inspired many works of art and sparked discussions on various social issues. The hairy little girl, Priscilla Lar, also known as the hairy little girl, and later the monkey girl, had a unique condition that drew attention throughout her life. Her father, seeking help for her health issues, decided to exhibit her as a show attraction. Despite his struggle with English and business, he eventually teamed up with showman Carl Lar, who was upset at people calling her a monkey girl. Lar even paired Priscilla with a trained monkey named Josephine to draw more visitors. Priscilla was known for her friendly nature and welcomed guests to her exhibit until she passed away in her sleep in February. Schlitzie Curtis. Schlitzie Curtis was a famous performer in freak shows during the 20th century. Born in 1901 with a condition called microcephaly, he had a small head and body. Originally named Simon Metz, Schlitzie grew up in foster care before joining the circus. He communicated like a young child and often faced cruel taunts from audiences. His big break came in 1932 when he appeared in the movie Freaks, which briefly made him famous. Unfortunately, his newfound fame didn't change the harsh realities of circus life, and he passed away after being cared for by chimp trainer George C. Francis O'Connor. Francis O'Connor was born without arms, but learned to eat, drink, write, and sew with her feet. At 15, she joined the Ringling Brothers Circus, with her mother as her manager. Before that, she performed with other circuses, earning the title of the Living Venus. Her act included everyday tasks like drinking wine, eating steak, and even shooting a gun with her toes. Frances eventually retired, believing she was too old to marry, and passed away in Long Beach, California, in 1982 at the age of 67. Martin Joe Lorello. Martin Joe Lorello, known as the Man with the Revolving Head and Bobby the Boy with the Revolving Head, was born in Nuremberg, Germany in 1885. He had a curved spine that allowed him to turn his head 180 degrees. After moving to the United States in 1921, he performed with sideshows like Ripley's, Believe It or Not, and Ringling Brothers. Besides his unique talent, he also trained dogs to perform gymnastics. Lorello was known for his impressive acts in the 1930s until he died of a heart attack at the age of 70. Sarah Hobolt. Sarah Hobolt is an extraordinary circus and physical theater performer, specializing in aerials, acrobatics, and hula hoops. She competed in swimming at the 2000 Sydney Paralympic Games and proudly identifies as a natural-born freak, a term historically used to describe disabled sideshow performers. Born with Hallman's syndrome, which affects her bone structure, Sarah stands at 144 centimeters and is legally blind. Despite her challenges, she emphasizes her strengths and skills on stage. In addition to performing, She is actively involved in arts administration in New South Wales and advocates for disability rights, aiming to challenge misconceptions associated with the term freak and the sideshow industry. Lalu Rampersad. Lalu Rampersad, born in India with a parasitic twin protruding from his chest, faced a unique life. His twin, sometimes dressed as a sister, had limbs and a functional penis, but required its own head. Despite being a Muslim, he was marketed as the happy, healthy Hindu in sideshows. Discovered by an English entrepreneur in 1888, Lalu traveled to Europe and then the United States in 1891, performing with major circuses like Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey. Tragically, he died in a train accident in 1905 while traveling to Mexico. Maximo and Barra. Maximo and Barra debuted in 1848 and were born with microcephaly. They originated from the Salvador town of Dora and were sold to an American promoter named Morris. To captivate the American public's fascination with ethnological wonders, Morris created a fantastical narrative claiming they were discovered in an Aztec temple and were the last survivors of a sacred race. They were dressed in Aztec-style clothing, and their small size and unique appearance led the public to believe the story. They performed until 1901, with the details of their later lives remaining a mystery. Johnny Eck. Johnny Eck was born with non-functioning legs and tied them close to his body with a custom apparatus. He had a fraternal twin named Robert, who was fully formed. They performed a notorious magic act in 1937, where Johnny would appear to be cut in half while Robert remained intact. Known as the Half Man, Johnny worked with various shows, including Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey, and Ripley's Believe It or Not. He also appeared in 3 Tarzan films. In his later years, Johnny returned to Baltimore, where he and Robert ran a penny arcade and a children's train ride, and he enjoyed screen painting and producing plays for neighborhood kids. Millie Christine, also known as Christine McCoy, were conjoined twins born on July 11, 1851, in Columbus County, North Carolina. Their parents, Jacob and Monia, were enslaved people owned by a blacksmith named Jobs McKay. From the moment they were born, the twins attracted a lot of attention. They were joined at the lower spine and shared one pelvis, but each sister had her own legs and arms. As adults, they referred to themselves as Millie Christine, as if they were one person. Their owner reportedly sold them for $1,000 to a showman who wanted to display them in freak shows. Later, they came under the care of Joseph Pearson Smith, a wealthy trader. While with Smith, they were known as Millie and Christine Smith, and he hired them out to other traveling shows. P.T. Barnum, Joseph Merrick, known as the Elephant Man, was not a circus performer in the usual way, but he was displayed in freak shows because of his severe physical deformities. He had a condition that caused his body to develop in very unusual ways, making him look different from most people. Despite his appearance, Merrick had a kind heart and a brilliant mind. His tragic life story touched many people, and he became famous for it. He often faced rejection and mistreatment, but he also found friends who cared about him. Joseph Merrick's story is a powerful reminder of the importance of kindness and acceptance, and he is frequently remembered alongside circus history. The Bearded Lady, Annie Jones, famously known as the Bearded Lady, was one of the most recognized female performers in the 19th century. She grew a thick beard because of a medical condition called hirsutism, which causes excessive hair growth. Despite facing challenges and the attention her appearance brought, Annie embraced her uniqueness and became a beloved attraction in P.T. Barnum's circus. She was not just a performer, she was a trailblazer who showed that beauty comes in many forms. Audiences were fascinated by her talent and personality, making her a star in her own right. The Human Pincushion. The Human Pincushion was a performer known for piercing his skin with needles, often displaying his unique talent as part of his act. One of the most famous examples of this was Fred Wilson. Fred had many tattoos covering his body, and he showcased his extensive collection of body art and piercings in the circus. His act fascinated audiences, as people were curious about how he could endure the pain of the piercings. Despite the unusual nature of his performance, Fred was skilled and turned his body into a canvas, demonstrating how art and pain could be intertwined in a powerful way. The Lobster Boy, Grady Stiles Jr., known as the Lobster Boy, was born with a condition called ectrodactyly. This condition made his hands and feet look like lobster claws, giving him a unique appearance. Grady became a sideshow attraction, showcasing his distinctive features to audiences. While he gained fame and was celebrated for his differences, his life was not easy. He faced many personal challenges and struggles, including family issues. Grady's story is a mix of triumph and hardship, highlighting the complexities of living in the spotlight while dealing with personal difficulties. The Living Skeleton. Paul White, known as the Living Skeleton, was an extremely thin performer due to a medical condition that affected his growth. He was so thin that he looked like a skeleton, which amazed and intrigued audiences at various sideshows. Paul embraced his unusual physique, turning it into a captivating act that drew crowds. While he faced challenges due to his condition, he used his uniqueness to entertain and connect with people. His story is a reminder of how individuals can find strength and purpose in their differences, even in a world that often focuses on appearances. Prince Randan. Prince Randan could roll cigarettes, light them, and even shave his face using only his mouth. He was known as the Snake Man, the Human Torso, and the Human Caterpillar. When the curtain rose and the spotlight hit him, the audience was always shocked. Prince Randan was just 3 feet tall, and his arms ended at his shoulders with almost no legs. He entertained the audience by wiggling around the stage and performing tricks using only his mouth. Randan passed away from a heart attack on December 19, 1934, just hours after his final performance, after over 40 years of performing. Jonathan R. Boss. Jonathan R. Boss belonged to a group of people who were displayed in shows. He had rheumatism since he was a child, but worked on his family's farm in upstate New York until he was 57. By then, his body had become stiff, and cataracts took his eyesight. With most of his family already gone, he decided to showcase himself at dime museums and sideshows. People traveled from far and wide to see his frail body, which was usually propped up and tied to a board. He only weighed 75 pounds because he ate only liquids. He endured this for 5 years, seemingly in good spirits, until he died of pneumonia in 1892. Edward Morey. Edward Morey was a young, attractive English aristocrat and a talented pianist. However, he had a terrible curse, a second face on the back of his head. This second face was described as beautiful yet hideous. It seemed to have its own mind. When Edward cried, the other face would smile and sneer. He was haunted by this devil twin, which kept him awake at night, whispering dark thoughts. Eventually, Edward became insane and committed himself to an asylum at the age of 23, leaving behind a message asking for the second face to be removed after he died. Violeta Wagner, also known as Vieta, moved to New York from Germany with her stepbrother. She worked as a singer in sideshows like Coney Island's Dreamland and the Ringling Bros in Barnum and Bailey Circus. Violeta got around by using the lower part of her torso and could manipulate objects with her mouth well enough to comb her hair, dress herself, thread a needle, and sew. She wore her wedding ring around her neck on a gold necklace. There was no hint of deformity in her sleek trunk, which could compete with any beauty queen. Her usual billing was Beautiful, Armless, and Legless Venus. Violeta passed away in 1940. General Tom Thumb. General Tom Thumb was born Charles Sherwood Stratton in 1838. He stopped growing when he was 6 months old, but began to grow again slowly in 1847. By his 18th birthday, he reached a height of 2 feet 8.5 inches. At age 5, he started touring with P.T. Barnum as General Tom Thumb, gaining fame and money that allowed him to live a lavish lifestyle and work closely with Barnum. Tom Thumb died from a stroke in 1883 at the age of 45, just 6 months after surviving a terrible hotel fire in Milwaukee that killed 71 people. At his peak, he stood 3.35 feet tall and weighed 71 pounds. Thanks for joining us to explore these remarkable lives. If you enjoyed the stories, don't forget to like and subscribe for more fascinating tales from history.